Yeah, so we should feel really privileged.
We should.
Yeah, we should feel
There
honored.
are some districts that record them and put them on their website for viewing anytime.
That makes sense. That'd be nice to do. One of our IT projects. All right, are we ready?
Page 1.
I'm ready.
Good. Good evening. Sheila, can you take attendance, please?
Well, Fairholm?
Here.
Olson?
Here.
D. Peterson?
Here.
J. Peterson?
Here.
Swaisinger?
Here.
All right, before you, we have the minutes from the June 27th meeting for your approval.
Move approval.
Doug
Second.
Rachel.
and Rachel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of the agenda. Dr. Folk, do you have any changes? Because I have one.
Yes, I have one. If you'll note, into your agenda, I think we're looking at D under new business. There's a recommendation form for a person, and that I did not intend to have included. My intent is to request the position from you as a board, but not to recommend that individual at this time. And if you were to grant permission of that position, then we'd go out and then we would advertise, you know, and publish it. But through our discussion in the office before I left last week, that was confused. So, yeah. So anyway, it's not the person, it's the position that I'll be talking about.
And for me, under item 9, under organization of the school board, we're going to add a Y, and we're going to put appointment of committee members in there. Okay. Any other changes that we need to make? All right.
Well, excuse me, there will be another change, but that will come into your second meeting on the reorganization. And I don't know, do I note that now, Jim?
I can just explain it when we get to this next
Okay.
part here, and
All
then,
right.
but then I won't have to explain it as much when we get to it again at the next meeting.
All right.
And that's where my change was too, was in the next meetings.
Oh,
things,
yeah, and I guess,
Technically, so.
so,
okay?
and so is mine.
Okay.
So probably we're looking at a repeat of B under 4, the conflicts.
You'll have a repeat of A and B. You'll approve the agenda again for the new school board meeting after school, after you get done with the organization and election and all that. Well, I guess probably it'll happen right after the school member oaths are administered. You'll be taking roll again. Approving the agenda and then having that indication of any conflict of interest provision.
Information to approve the agenda is noted. Second.
Tim and Doug, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, with that, Dr. Folk and Jim, we'll let you go on.
Yeah, and Jim is far better prepared to present this information to you than me. However, I'll let you know that this is quite a far-reaching issue passed by the legislature this year, and in talking with many other superintendents, school districts now are just trying to get this figured out as to how to handle this appropriately. But it deals with any possible conflicts that may exist, and it's kind of a fallout of all that stuff that took place with the Mid-Central Co-op and the Gear Up grant. And so given that, I'm going to ask Jim to explain.
Well, it's a new law that came into effect on July 1st, and it applies to state authorities, boards, and commission members, and also to school district board members. The law that applies to state authority, boards, and commission members has a application of 22 different boards and commissions, and that's listed in SDCL 3-23-10, and they're all state boards. None of them are political subdivisions. And then the part that applies to school districts is contained in SDCL 3-23, 6 through 9. And the provisions that apply to school board members also apply to fiscal agents, officers, executives of a local service agency, and so forth. There's many things listed there that are not defined, but the provisions are the same exact ones as apply to state authority boards or commissions. The laws are stated in sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with respect to those state boards, and then in 6, 7, 8, and 9, it's repeated verbatim, only the entities that are involved are now local ones, school districts, namely. It doesn't involve counties or townships or counties or anything like that. It seems to be limited to educational institutions or agencies, but the requirements are identical. And basically what the law says, and you've already had in place for years other conflict of laws and contract interest statutes. They're generally contained in SDCL Chapter 6-1, and there's a number of, basically there's a general statement in that law, and then there's a lot of exceptions because of so many small towns and the unavailability of different places to obtain services and goods and things like that. This law here is a new one, and it adds to those other ones that are generally contained in Title 6-1, and it basically says that if a board member has a direct benefit in any contract or has an interest in any contract, then that board member has to disclose it. Then, and there's two methods of doing that. The first one is in writing, and then and in conjunction with an application for a waiver. And then the contract is examined by the board, and then if the board so determines, the waiver is granted. And in determining whether or not to grant the waiver, there are several criteria that are given. The second method, which is the method that we're using tonight because we don't have a policy in place to cover this, it being a new law, is if, as a regular part of your school board agenda, you have a item in which members of the school board disclose any conflicts that appear on any matter that are listed on that particular agenda. So there's two ways to do it. An advance one where you make a written application, and then there's a written waiver form that's adopted by the school board, or another one where you just have it as a routine item, just like approving the agenda, visitors to be heard, what have you. And every meeting you make a disclosure for any item that's on the agenda. Now, there are two things that are to be considered. The first one is direct benefit. If a school board member has a direct benefit from a contract, direct benefit is defined as whether that member or a spouse or any other person with whom that board member commingles assets, one, has more than a 5% ownership or interest in an entity that is a party to the contract, two, derives income, compensation, or commission directly from the contract or from the entity that is a party to the contract, three, acquires property under the contract, or four, serves on the board of directors of an entity that derives income or commission directly from the contract or acquires property under the contract. And so if those things, all four of those things are missing in a given contract, then a school board member doesn't have a direct benefit. And then whether they have an interest or not goes back to SDCL Chapter 6-1. And this statute also goes on to say that a member does not have an interest in the contract or receive a direct benefit by participating in a vote or a decision where the member's only interest is in the effect of an application, of an act of general application. So those are the, and then if you opt to do the second method of complying with that statute, which is having a regular agenda item for it, then you don't have to disclose anything unless you have a direct benefit or unless you have an interest as defined by SDCL 6-1. And but if you do, then you're supposed to disclose it, and then the board member that has either a direct benefit or an interest is not to be involved in the discussion or consideration of the matter. They can still remain present, but they're not allowed to talk about it. And then if the board determines that the matter underlying the conflict is fair, reasonable, and not contrary to the public interest, then the board member can, then the decision can go forward, and the disclosure is to be included in the minutes which are publicly available. And so if we do it every time, the disclosure will be included in the minutes. In this particular board meeting, it's a very abbreviated one. We have teacher collaboration schedule, annual salaries and hourly wages. It's the publishing of it. And so the only thing that I can see that when we get to the, it's a new law, so I'm a little uncertain of how to do it in some contexts. If there's a contract, for example, Tim's wife Patty works for the school district. We've already approved that contract before July 1st. So does that then count as far as Tim's ability to participate, discuss, and vote on the budget? Because the budget funds that contract. By the same token, Shannon and Doug are employed by the university. The school district has different contracts with the university, joint facilities use, the DOME contract, student teaching program. There might be some other professional development program, professional services contracts. In Rachel's case, working for Sanford, we have contracts with Sanford. I think they're all in the nature of professional services. And so if we were making a decision to approve or disapprove a specific contract, then at the beginning of the board meeting on that agenda item, Rachel would have to disclose whether she has that direct benefit or an interest. If she doesn't, then there's no disclosure to be made. But if there is one, then the board has to make that determination as to whether the underlying matter is reasonable, not contrary to public policy, and so forth. So, but when you get to the budget is all-encompassing. It involves everything. You know, all those contracts that you've already approved. And so, out of an abundance of caution, what I would like to do when we get to that item at the second meeting here that we're going to have is just ask Shannon, Doug, Rachel, and Tim whether they have any direct benefits from any of those contracts or any other ones that I don't know about that might be in existence. I don't know of anything involving Jim. I don't know if we've got anything with Masaba, but the other four, I know that there are some things, and then have the board, if there's a direct benefit or an interest that comes out during the disclosure process, ask the board to make a motion to determine whether the matter underlying the conflict is fair, reasonable, and not contrary to public interest. And it's kind of important to me because the GOAC is making recommendations one way how to follow the law. ASBSD has, proposed some policies to be considered. An AG's opinion has been requested, asking about 10 different questions, like it says fiscal agents. Well, we know that Sheila's a fiscal agent, but what about then Cindy and Amber, anybody who works for Sheila in her office? Are they also fiscal agents? How far does the definition of administrator go? We don't know yet. And the AG's office is supposedly going to give an opinion on it, but they haven't as of today. And then my understanding is that there are other policies like the Veterans Preference Policy and other ones that involve changes in law that will be referred to the Policy Committee for review and then recommendation and for possible adoption at the August or September. And then I'm thinking that a policy on this would also be adopted, and then you could pick whichever, the first option where you do the very formal written disclosure and waiver form application, or you just have it at the beginning of every meeting that you have and disclose whether there's anything on there that you have either a direct benefit in or an interest in.
So out of curiosity,
It's,
I realize that it's still a little on the foggy side, but for Doug and I, we're both employees of USD. But I'm not involved, I don't think Doug's involved in the dome contracts or any of those types of things that we have, except from a school board standpoint, not from a university side. So does that?
well, so what we'll do when I get that, I'm wanting to be careful because it says in the code that if we violate this, it's a misdemeanor against the board member, and I don't want that, and so I think we need to be as careful as we can. So when we get to that item at the second meeting, where we're talking about indication of any conflicts, I'll just ask each board member, as far as the USD or any other contracts that we have, whether you derive a direct benefit based on any of those four items, first of all. And then second of all, do you have an interest in the contract other than just that of general application having voted on it? And then if no, then there's nothing else to do. I think that that'll probably be the way it'll go for everybody, except when we get to Tim. Then Tim will have a direct benefit, his wife's contract, and then the board will have to make a vote on those three things that I just said, whether the matter underlying the conflict is fair, reasonable, and not contrary to public interest.
That's assuming she shares a paycheck with me.
If she doesn't commingle the assets,
Yeah.
then I guess that's. It's, and we may get some different guidance, but this is what we're getting right now from GOAC. And they're the ones that are going to perform the audits to see if we've complied, and so I'm inclined to believe that if we follow them and what they're telling us to do, as far as compliance, having it on the agenda every time seems to me to be, even though it'll be on there more often, it'll be less cumbersome and less likely to be forgotten.
Where would you suggest placing it?
I would have it under the very next item after approving the agenda. That means we'd probably have to approve those other school board governance policies that we've adopted earlier to include that new thing. But we probably won't have to do that until we know from the policy committee if they want to have a policy that does it the first more formal way or the second less formal way. And depending upon that, then you'll adopt you'll change your policies on school board governance accordingly.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Jess. All right. We have Bob Devine here with us to discuss our renovation projects at Austin and at the high school. Bob, just so you know, we have a budget hearing that has to go on at 7:30. I'm not trying to cut you short, but I may have to stop you and then come back to you.
Jim's passing the, what I want to go over is just where the status of the project is, as far as for the high school and then Austin. So the packets kind of go through the scope of work and then some notes on there on where we're at. And then there's some pictures from each one of them. So that first one there, that first page, they're done. At the bottom there, you can see they're done, so I won't go through all those.
Boys' locker room is done?
No, that's just all the demo. That's all the demo. So if you go to the next page. So if we go through that, the concrete's done. You can see that we've grind and remove all the floor tiling. That's all done. When we get down to there's that first one there that has some notes on it, the locker room where you had the windows for the locker room to the coaches area. The locker room's all done, so we can get it tiled on the back side where the coaches room needs to be framed in yet. Otherwise, that's done also. So they're sitting good there. Partition walls are done. All the ceilings are painted in the new bathrooms in those areas. Installed new tile in the shower area. We're working on that. That should be done by the end of this week. The 9 individual ADA showers, that'll be started next week. The plumbing, as you can see in that first picture, we have some of the plumbing stubbed in, just waiting for the tile to get done, and then that'll be completed. The epoxy, that's all done on the bathroom floors.
And looks great.
Yep, there is a picture of that. I tried to blow that up a little bit on one of the pictures there. 95% done with the shower tiling. That will be done here. They may have finished it today, actually. So we're sitting good there. So the next page there with the rest of the boys' locker rooms. Really, we've got to get some of that tiling done, and we'll have that pretty much all completed by the end of this week, and the plumbers will be able to start possibly by Thursday or Friday in the boys' room. So we're sitting good there. The coaches areas, we're kind of keeping that for the back end of the project. Let's get everything done out in the locker room so we can get those at use. August 11th is when the practices start, so we want to make them usable. And then if we're not, we're thinking we'll be completed even with the coaches area, but we're going to wait till the very end to attack that. They started doing all the lighting also today, so that's moving along. The crash bars, there's that picture of a door. You can see the hardware. They've got the hardware on today. That's the new door when you come in. Going back to the back area, so there'll be a crash bar in this one. So. And the doors, we think, will be completed in the girls and boys all done by the end of this week. There's an item in there, cut the grills and the exhaust duct. Actually, we removed that duct when we got into it. It's dirty, so we just took it down. There's not a lot of it. We're putting a new duct up, and then we're gonna put the grills in that area. So that'll take care of that. Get more ventilation in the boys' locker room there. So if we move to the girls' locker room, they're really gonna hit that starting on Thursday, and with the tiling, and work through the weekend. So we're hoping we can get done with the tiling by the end of possibly next week in the girls' area too. And as we move through that, Redlinger's moving right behind them with the fixtures and the plumbing and all that kind of stuff. So we're moving along pretty good there. There was one change in the women's over by the bathrooms in the prep room or the counter. We're going to tile that floor after talking to the epoxy guy, because that's where you come out of the shower and you'll be bringing a lot of water. He said that would be a better area for tile than the epoxy, so we're going to go ahead and tile it. Look nicer too there. So, decided to do that. Like I said, that will be started next week. And then we'll just be moving right in with the fixtures as the tile is completed. And the same thing with the coaches area over in the women's. We're going to move that out into August before we really attack that, so we can get everything else done. The lighting, like I said, was started this week. Crash bars should be done by the end of this week. Drinking fountains, they were working on those today. They did have one problem with a drain on the boys' side. They had that stainless steel in there, and when they were trying to get routed down for it to drain it, they ran into problems. So we'll see how they came out today. Our second solution is we may have to come down and run a stub pipe over and go run a new line. But we'll hopefully get through that. Epoxy floors, again, they're done. The lockers, they'll be here August 1st, the new lockers, and then we can start setting those and the benches and stuff. So it's going to be real close as we get those new lockers in.
Can I hold you for just a
Sure.
moment?
Yep.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry about this.
No problem.
It is 7:30, and it is time for our 2016-17 budget hearing and budget adoption. Are there any public comments at this time in reference to this budget? If not, we'll need a,
I think just the hearing right now, and then we'll go into the adoption and the new business of that.
okay,
Yeah,
we're going to do the adoption and our new business.
yeah. But just so long as you record the hearing now, then that, we're fine.
Back to where we were?
And then we'll come back to where we were. Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's not a
So
problem.
like 5 minutes, 2
You're
minutes,
fine.
1
You
minute?
can go ahead now.
Oh, go?
We just had a
Oh, okay.
designated time that we had to do a hearing.
Okay.
All
right.
Okay.
And then the next one was the doors, the refinishing of the 94 doors. We're 95% done with those. So that's not going to be a problem in that area. There's some pictures of Austin. We're actually done over there, except for one item, and that's the roof hatch. That we plan on trying to get that cut in next week. But you can see, you know, the new units up on the roof, the 6 units. The ductwork's all installed. The controls are hooked up. This is a picture of the new ceiling going down the hallway. It turned out really nice. There's a picture of the unit heater down by the recessed door. That will hopefully keep that area a little warmer. And then the other unit heater is up on the stage. This wire hanging down is a, I don't know, it's a school communication wire, I guess. So if anybody wondered what that one was, but that's what it is. Could be,
The teachers can move in back into the classrooms then in Austin?
yeah, it's ready to go.
That were affected.
Yeah, they were prepping all the rooms over there, so.
Ceilings look very nice over there in Austin, yeah.
Yeah, that moved along really well.
The air feels good. I mean, seems like it's an even flow, so.
Yep, and there's a few things, once we get things running, we'll be coming back and readjusting some of the controls and scheduling and all that. But it's best to get some of the activities going on before we know exactly how to get everything scheduled on the control site, so.
Looks really great.
Pardon me?
Looks really great.
Yeah, it does. It's turning out to be a nice job. I know it seems like we have a lot to do, but we're in better shape than we were at this time last year on that project, so.
And you can tell I mean, you can just tell it smells better. I mean,
Good.
it's circulating and. Bob?
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a little bit of unfinished business. We have the 2016-17 teacher collaboration schedule.
And it's all Thursdays, it looks like.
The only one I had a question on was the November 10th, because that's Veterans Day, but then I remembered that these are early dismissals. Are these early dismissals?
Yes.
Okay. So then the Veterans Day program can still happen.
Oh, it just happened earlier.
Make a motion to approve.
Jim and Tim. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We also have, we need approval for the publishing of the 2016-17 annual salaries and hourly wages.
Just a question, I know you put in an example there in our packet, what it would look like. Is that a change from previously, or I just don't remember having an example of it previously?
I do not believe it's a change, well, from last year anyway, Tim.
Oh, you mean how it will actually be published?
Yeah, I don't remember that being,
Yeah, I think she's just given you the spreadsheet, but she wanted to show you how compressed it does become.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
just as an added, yeah. I think normally you've gotten all that spreadsheet,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
At this time, we will adjourn our 2015-16 school board meeting. Here, can I have a motion, please?
So move. Second.
Doug and Tim. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we are,
Thank you for your service.
yes, thank you very much. for your service.
At this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask that Sheila Bierman administer oaths of office to Doug Peterson and Jim Peterson.
Get front and center, man.
next year. Yep, perfect, thank you.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Glad to have you with us for another 3.
Thank the 27 people that signed.
At this time, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda with items changed as we indicated previously.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor indicate by signifying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the agenda is approved. Now, at this time, we will address any potential conflicts of interest, and I'll turn that over to our attorney, Jim McCullough.
Okay, I'll just ask the board members collectively whether they or their spouse or any other persons a board member lives with and commingles assets, one, has more than a 5% ownership or other interest in an entity that is a party to a contract that the school district has entered into that you're aware of. 2, derives income, compensation, or commission directly from such a contract or from the entity that is a party to that contract. Acquires property under the contract, or serves on the board of directors of an entity that derives income or commission directly from the contract or acquires property under the contract. I believe in the case of Shannon and Doug, that will be limited to the USD contracts that the school district has. There's joint facilities, student teaching program. There might be some other professional development programs such as the PDC or some other professional services contracts. In the case of Rachel, it will be any contracts that I've just described that the school district has with Sanford, her employer. Those would be in the nature, I think every one of them is a professional services contract. And I'm not aware of anything involving Jim Peterson at Masaba. And Tim would have his wife's contract with the school district as a teacher. And so I'll ask, I guess, Shannon, do you have any affirmative response to any of those 4 questions?
I am on the payroll at the University of South Dakota,
And that same would be, but no other.
but no other.
And Doug? And Rachel?
I'm on the payroll at Sanford Vermillion, but receive no direct benefits.
And Jim, anything with Masaba that you know of? And then Tim?
Yep, my wife Patty is a school district employee.
All right. And you, as a member of the school board, have authority then to approve her contract, is that right?
Correct.
And then, in regard to those other contracts, Sanford and USD contracts, do any of the board members have an interest in those contracts other than by participating in a vote or decision where your only interest is in the effect of the act of general application? Then I would say that based on that, then Tim has disclosed a direct benefit from his wife's contract with the school district. And so then the next step, Tim won't be able to be involved in the discussion or consideration of this matter. The board will have to determine whether the matter underlying that conflict is fair, reasonable, and not contrary to the public interest. And that would require a motion, a second, and a vote. Well,
I don't want to make a mistake.
I know. Well,
It has been in the past that, even without this, that Tim has removed himself from the negotiation process, and anything that he had any direct benefit from in the past. I would assume that we would continue to do the same thing.
well, and I imagine because the contract is between Patty and the school board, it is probably goes without saying that you believe that the contract is fair, reasonable, and not contrary to the public policy. And so I would say that all you'd have to do is make a motion determining that that teacher contract and the conflict that it causes with Tim is fair, reasonable, and not contrary to public policy. Just need a motion and a second and a vote on it.
I'll make a motion that the teacher contract is fair and not contrary to policy, that and it was disclosed that Patty is a teacher, which is Tim's spouse. Did I get that right?
And Tim, you won't be able to vote on it, but it's whenever you're ready to vote on it after discussion.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And abstention?
One abstention.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Okay, are you done with that part of it then, Jim? Yeah. Okay, now, I have potential conflicts to report, and that would be relating to Kurt Cameron, who is the high school principal, and Barb, his wife, works for the district, since it talks about school board members and administrators in the law. So it would be the same scenario, so to speak, Tim, as what you have. So that would be a potential conflict. And then also, on occasion, administrators are employed by USD to teach classes, and they receive a stipend or payment for that. And then professional organizations will sometimes provide benefits such as trips. For example, the trip that I took to Washington this last week was paid by the South Dakota School Superintendents Association. So potentially that is a conflict. I'm not sure how, but I'm receiving that. I didn't receive compensation, but I received reimbursement on my expenses for that. So, those are just some things I thought of. As this plays out, there will probably be more that come to mind, but as,
I will note one too, Dr. Frobe. I do serve on the Sanford Board of Directors up in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
But I too only get reimbursement if that, so.
In your role as serving on that board, do you ever vote on any of the contracts that the school district has with Sanford?
No.
okay. So what do we do with what Sheila and I divulged then, Jim?
Well, as we go along, if we're going to adopt a policy, after the policy committee has made its recommendation, if we go with the second option, in the packet materials, you'll see where the GOAC had two options.
Okay.
And if we go with that second option, we'll have to change some other policies, like the board governance policies. But then every time we have a board meeting, we're going to have to look at what's on there. And if there's a direct benefit, those 4 criteria that I just read off on any of the contracts, you'll have to disclose it. And if there is a disclosure, then the school board, minus that affected board member, makes that motion to determine whether the underlying matter is reasonable and fair and not contrary to public interest. And
Okay, let me ask you about Kirk Cameron's. Now, does anything have to be done with that?
not tonight.
Not tonight, but.
Not tonight,
So, would,
As we go along next year, administrator contracts will be approved, and also Barb's contract will be approved, and at that point in time, you'll have to examine that conflict.
okay, so would we note those in the minutes, what we just divulged here?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Policy committee will meet and decide.
There'll be some other policies too. We got that veterans preference law change and other things too.
We'll get those, yeah. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay. At this time, I will open nominations for school board president. So do we have any nominations for school board president? Okay, we have a nomination of Shannon Fairholm for school board president. Any further nominations?
Vote nominations cease.
Motion for nominations to cease, cast a unanimous ballot, and do we have a second to that motion? Doug? Oh, okay.
Second.
Oh, Jim. Doug or Jim?
Waiting for, Jim seconded.
Jim, okay, very good. All right. So all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So we will return the meeting to Shannon.
Thank you for your confidence. I appreciate it. All right. Next, we have the election of vice president of the board.
Make a motion, Tim Swashinger.
Okay.
Second.
Jim and Doug, nomination for Tim.
Motion to cease nominations?
Thank you. Nominations have been ceased. All in favor for Tim, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Tim Swasinger is the vice president of the school board. Next, we have a lot of things, legal items to take care of. And I recommend that we take items E through Q, that a motion, we'll need a motion, and we'll just do one motion at the end of the respective individuals. Designate Sheila Bierman as business manager and custodian of all accounts. Appoint Dr. Froke, superintendent of schools, as the ADA director, the EOE officer, and authorize the school district representative for all federal title programs not otherwise specified in the following action. Authorize Dr. Froke, the superintendent, to dismiss school in case of inclement weather, disease, or emergency, with secondary principal authorized to dismiss school in absence of the superintendent, which I believe is Kirk Cameron. Appoint Dr. Froke and Sheila Bierman as purchasing agents. Authorize Shannon Fairholm, school board president, and Sheila Bierman, business manager, as check signers. Authorize Sheila Bierman and Cindy Knutson usage of the facsimile stamp and signature plate for the school board president. Appoint Don Worth as homeless and migrant student director. Appoint Jason Huska as Title IX director. Appoint Lynn Griffith as Title III Limited English Proficiency Director. Appoint Kirk Cameron, Sue Galvin, Kim Johnson, and Tim Kohler as co-directors of Section 504s at their respective buildings. Appoint Jim McCullough as school attorney for the 2016-17 school year. Appoint a school nurse as the truant officer and HIPAA privacy rule designee for the 2016-17 school year. appoint Todd Moore as the AHERA designee.
Which
Asbestos Hazard Emergency Response Act. Anybody want any explanation of any of those letters? Okay. Yeah.
Make a motion to approve items E through Q.
Thank you, Rachel
Second?
and Tim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We need to designate the amended Roberts Rule of Order for Parliamentary Procedure, 9th edition. Jim? And Rachel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Let's see here. We have, we'd like to set the bond for the business manager and other employees. Business manager, Cindy and Amber, would be $400,000, and all other employees would be $100,000. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Tim and Doug, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'd like to designate the official depository of the school district as the Bank of the West, First Bank and Trust, Core Trust Bank, Wells Fargo Bank, and South Dakota Fit, which is the funds in trust, South Dakota Funds in Trust. Motion to approve. Rachel
Second.
and Jim. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We need to designate the official newspaper, which is the Plain Talk. All in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We need to present written policies from the manual to be effective 2016-17.
So moved.
Tim and Rachel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We need to set the dates and time for the regular school board meetings. School board meetings will be held on the second Monday of each month at 7 p.m. in the Neuharth Media Center, unless that Monday is a holiday. In that case, the meeting will be held the following Tuesday at 7 p.m. in the Neuharth Media Center. There will be second meetings held on the fourth Monday of January, March, April, and June at 7 p.m. in the Vermillion High School Library. Thank you, Doug
Second?
and Tim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We need to set the salary for school board members. Currently, we have a rate of $60 per meeting. If that meeting exceeds 4 hours, then it is a double salary. Just for your information, there is a maximum that a school board member can earn, and it is set by state law, and that is $75. I believe we went up to 60 last year. I'm okay with it being at 60, but
Sure you don't want like a 4% raise on that? Okay, 60's good for me.
okay. We have to stay back so we can give the 4% raise. Okay,
Motion to approve the rate at $60 per meeting.
perfect. Thank you, Tim
Second.
and Rachel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Should we have disclosed that?
Oh, that's a good point. Should we have disclosed that, Jim? We just approved our own salary.
Oh, no,
Okay. I'm not trying to be difficult. It
you
just-
don't have a conflict with your own
Feels weird
Okay.
then. Yeah.
contract that you have with yourself.
Okay.
Conscious be our guide.
Okay. And at this time, I think is a good place for us to make our appointment of our board committees. For finance, Doug's been serving on it for the last 2 years, and we usually try and have our newer members on there. And so I'd like to keep Rachel for a second year because of consistency. And Jim, if you were willing, I think it'd be a great opportunity. I've not been on it. That'd be great. I'm sorry?
I've not been on it that long not to have done.
That's okay. You and Jim can figure it out. For IT Community Relations, Jim, I was wondering if you'd be willing to serve on that with me. Okay, thank you. Personnel. I have served on personnel negotiations for, wow, 4 years, 5 years. While I enjoy it immensely, I would be willing to share the experience with somebody. Would like Jim to stay on so that there's some consistency there going into this next year. Is there anybody who would be interested besides Tim?
I will abstain myself.
Okay, thank you.
I can do that if.
That would be great. Okay, all right, so we're going to have Jim and Doug for personnel and negotiations. That would include calendar negotiations as well. Curriculum and policy, Tim. I would like an opportunity to do that. Would that be okay?
You bet.
Would you all be okay with that? We had approved a new committee, buildings/capital improvements, and I was wondering if Jim and Tim would be willing to sit on that.
Yes.
Thank you. Wellness Committee, Rachel, you've done a great job. Would you be willing to stay on that? Food Advisory Committee, Rachel, wellness kind of falls, I'm sorry. Well, I'm so sorry, thank you. And we're at Food Advisory Committee. Ask if Rachel would stay on because of the wellness piece of it, and I'll do that as well. Equalization Board, Tim, would you be willing to still sit on that for us?
I would.
Thank you. Vermillion Public School Foundation. Doug, would you be willing to sit on that?
Sure.
Okay.
I've enjoyed that immensely, but it would be time maybe for,
That was Doug.
That's Doug for Vermillion Public School Foundation. Junior Achievement, are you okay with that, Rachel? And Athletic Boosters, Jim, are you okay? Wonderful. We have filled all of our committees and boards. All right. Thank you all for all of your service, because I know the amount of hours that it takes to do everything that we just assigned. With that, we'll go into new business. We had our budget hearing, and now we need to adopt the 2016-17 budget. Okay, Rachel?
Second.
And Doug.
so is this something that I abstain myself from?
I think so.
Abstain myself.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. With one abstention. Thank you. All right. Moving forward, Dr. Froke, acceptance of the CTE house materials bid.
Okay, we had 2 bids for materials. One from Heron Shemp, one from Mead Lumber. But I would like to note an addendum, and that is the windows and doors listed under exterior millwork package on the CTE house material list job 2 have been removed from the current bid, and bids on exterior windows and doors will be accepted at a later time. And we didn't have specs for that, and it'll, you know, there may be some adjustment here when Mark Peer decides on the design of the house. So we'll just hold on the exterior windows and doors, and the bidders have been notified of this. So we had no electric bids, so then we can negotiate with a firm on a bid then, since we didn't have a bid for it. And then we had a bid from Turner Plumbing for the plumbing aspect. But anyway, as far as the main bid for materials, the first Heron Shemp, $31,543.73. $31,543.73. Okay, then Mead Lumber, $37,784.52. $37,784.52. So Heron Shemp presented the low bid. So if I may ask for approval on that?
Motion to approve?
Tim? And Doug. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
And then the second part of that would be the Turner Plumbing as the only bid for the plumbing, and that came to $4,503.88. $4,503.88.
Separate motion for that.
Please.
Accept.
Thank you, Doug.
Second.
And Rachel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
So then, just to follow up again, we'll be working with an electric firm, and then also we'll be taking bids or quotes on exterior doors and windows later. So obviously that will add to the expense, but I would guess that the expense will come up to about what we had last year, the way it looks. So, yeah, and then I talked with one of the Mart brothers just to follow up, and they're working to get the house moved out. They have a mover lined up. They fell out Elk Point, and they just, tomorrow they close on a lot at Bliss Point. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to go. They're going to have to hustle, I suppose, to get a basement and a foundation. But so anyway, they're moving, and so I just wanted to convey that to you. I don't know if they'll move the house out and have it sit somewhere. I would imagine that'd be the case.
They're planning on having it ready to stick on the foundation,
Oh, they are?
so.
Oh, okay.
I know the deadline was, what, August 1st to have it out, but please keep us apprised, because I am sure we all want to watch this house move out of that building.
Sell tickets.
Exactly.
I'll run to that. Let's get costs.
All right. We shall do that. Okay.
Be a good picture for the front page there.
Yeah,
It's on the positive side.
Yes.
that's right. That's right.
Right. Don't get any pictures of the eaves being ripped off on the sides as it's going on.
Okay, Dr. Froak, we have approval of admissions rates for the 2016-17 school year.
Yes, I'm going to recommend they stay the same. I asked Jason Huska to do some checking, and he's finding that we're right there in the ballpark with what everybody else is doing in the area. So.
And I see the senior citizens continue to be free, age 65 or over, and they can get a season pass as well, right? And they come to the administrative office to get
Yes.
that, or the senior center? Or is it all?
Yes, we do distribute it to the senior center as well, absolutely. Yeah, so thanks for mentioning that. So people were very pleased on that.
That's very nice.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the admission rates.
Motion to approve commission rates.
Thank you, Rachel and Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Dr. Froke, you were going to talk about the request for the position?
Right. For, well, actually, a number of years, Kim has been talking to me about help with the behavior issues, the children with, behavioral problems. And we've never really been able to solve that. We've been on the phone with Peer. This year, we got on the phone again with the Department of Ed, and they indicated that we could use our consolidated grant dollars to pay for most of that 6/10 of a position, and that would be a behavioralist and a family outreach person to work with special education children only, and that person could work district-wide. Our focus would be the elementary. We have a number of children that come in with behavior issues, and Kim has to spend a lot of time with those children. And so the dollar amount that we couldn't quite cover with the consolidated grant app would be about $4,000. And then we could fill that position out. We were thinking of the guidance counselor over there who is employed 4/10 time, and then add this position of 6/10 time for a full-time position. A lot of the problem too, we have a fair amount of turnover in that role because it's only 4/10, and they want to move on to full-time work. So anyway, that's the story on that. We're set very well in special ed as far as the finances go, and of course, the consolidated grant app would cover most of it.
So you're looking, right now, you're looking for the board to give the go-ahead to advertise for this position?
Correct, yes, yeah.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Tim and Jim, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. You've just made at least one elementary principal very happy. So we'll advertise for that, and I'm certain the individual that we're looking at will apply.
One reason that intrigues me, we've talked a lot about the family challenges and behavior issues, but it intrigues me to see if we attack that early at the elementary level, hopefully it pays off throughout their educational career and saves everybody more time.
Very good.
All right, at this time, we have the acceptance of extracurricular and classified resignations. We have before us Stacy Badke resigning her position as flag supervisor and 7th grade girls basketball coach. Betsy Hughes resigning as boys tennis. She will remain as the girls tennis coach. Lisa Punt, I'm not sure what her.
She is a part-time high school janitor.
And then Ryan McFarland, who.
The special ed aide.
Motion to accept those resignations.
Tim? Second.
And Rachel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We thank those individuals. We have before us the approval of new certified staff. We have Amy Askew, who is going to be taking on that position of school nurse with the family outreach, which we've been looking for some time. Rachel?
Second.
And Doug. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have approval of the extracurricular personnel.
Yes, and if I could just make a comment here, the sheet where you see all the names and assignments, these are returnees. And the extra sheets are the new.
Do I need to read through the existing sheet?
I think we should.
Okay, will do. Football, Ryan Badke, 7th grade coach. Golf, Kurt Hogan, head boys and girls golf coach. Wrestling, we have Christian Hagan, middle school coach. For volleyball, Dottie Kirkman, 8th grade coach. Boys soccer, Kirk Nelson as head coach. Sean Langner, assistant coach. Girls basketball, Doug Hansen for 9th grade coach. Nick Hovden, 8th grade coach. Girls soccer, Shannon Fitzsimmons, head coach. Michael Rucker, assistant coach. Girls tennis, Betsy Hughes, head coach. Gymnastics, Michael Rucker, assistant coach. Assistant drama advisor, Jordan Mitchell. And those are existing positions. For new recommendations, we have Ryan Badke for the position of 7th grade girls basketball. TJ Beacom, assistant varsity football. Mariah Caligari as color guard flags. Brock Fair, head boys tennis coach. Christian Hagan, 7th grade football coach. And Steve Nelson, 9th grade football.
I have a question. That can't possibly be all of our returning coaching staff. I
No.
mean, it's not. So what,
They're,
first list is what?
they're from, they don't teach, they don't have a teaching position,
Ah,
Doug.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. That was a good question.
Thank you for the clarification.
So motion to approve item G and H.
Yeah.
Second.
Oh, hang on a second.
Excuse me, with the exception of one, Betsy Hughes, Doug, and the reason we waited there is on the funding.
She's changing from 2 to 1. I understand that.
If we're gonna approve G and H, let me throw in here, we have 2 classified as well. We have Valerie Hall as a sped paraprofessional at Jolly, and Dinah Wapinarski
Very good.
as sped paraprofessional at the high school.
It's kind of like Soycinder.
Okay,
I motion to approve items G and H.
perfect.
Second.
Rachel and Tim, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I want to say aye, but I want to abstain from the voting on Steve Nelson. He works for me at Masaba, just so nothing can be perceived as a conflict.
Okay, thank you, noted. Okay. Reports, superintendent reports. Dr. Folk, do you have anything at this time?
No, I just,
Covered everything.
well, it comes, there is a joint convention coming up, if you're interested. We can get you registered, and that would be my only report item.
Okay. Sheila, do you have any reports for us at this time?
Don't.
And for board, we have our dual credit committee. Doug, I'm sure you haven't, do you have anything to report thus far?
Well, I just got, Dr. Froke collected some preliminary information, and I just got it today. So now that I have that, I'll get a cover letter out, get our first meeting scheduled, and work from there. My hope is that we will have a report back to this board by November, December, if not sooner.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Are there any other board reports at this time? I don't think so. Okay. Jim, do you need to,
There's nothing more to add,
okay,
other than, the policy committee will be making a recommendation as to which way we go and what the wording of the policy will be.
okay, fabulous, thank you. Sheila, we have financials, funds on page 63 through 66, and claims on 67 through 79.
We do. The business manager's report is in the packet. If you have any questions, this is year end, so there's a lot of cleanup entries at the end of the year, and you'll see that as the transfers go between the accounts. And I'll give you an example. We don't have checks for the food service account. So we pay all the maintenance out of general fund, and at the end of the year, we just transfer those dollars. So that's an example of what's happening at the end of the year. If you have any questions, I'll sure answer them.
I didn't get to ask you this beforehand, so I apologize, but do we get new security cameras? It says security cameras, Austin, I'm guessing, AF, for 2,400 each. Was that part of I can't remember if that was part of a grant that we got, some new cameras, or was that the buzzer that we got?
Probably not.
Yeah, the buzzer was the grant, the
Yeah.
panic
Buzzer,
button.
okay.
That, and Rachel, that would not be involved in the grant. However, there were budget items for those cameras or upgrades.
Perfect, great.
I had a couple of small questions. There's high school gym floor refinishing, that's like $6,000. Is that the auxiliary gym that was insurance, or is that I didn't think we were refinishing the main gym.
It was just the auxiliary, but that the insurance was
Well,
covered.
I'll take the first question, and that is that the auxiliary gym was finished, and, but all of that cost should have been in the total amount. And I believe it was either 17,500 or 18,500. I don't know, do you remember? I'll say 17,500. And then in addition, we receive sealant and wax to do the other floors, plus we have a charge where the folks come out and apply that. So it's externally.
This is, I guess my question is this reimbursed as part of the insurance? Or is this an annual expense is this the normal expense?
I believe that is an annual expense. That one is the annual. We'll verify that. But,
Okay.
But we received a check for $14,500 on the insurance, so it would have been about $3,000 difference, if I recall right. But we can check that, for you.
We did get everything but the deductible on the floor.
That should,
To repair it.
and then the second one is, there's like $6,000 for band uniforms. I thought we were budgeting to buy new band uniforms this coming year, so why are we spending $7,000 on band uniforms?
That's a great question. It's because they shipped items early.
So these are new.
These are new.
Okay.
We received on them in this fiscal, so we had to report on them.
We had to pay 'em.
It's something that gets under the skin of the business manager and superintendent when they guarantee that
It's not a
we
happy
won't
day.
see them until the new budget, and then they show up.
Okay, good. I'm perfectly happy
And
with
we
that.
that
received
just part of
on
it?
them, so we had.
Is that, for instance, just like the
Pants
pants, the jackets?
In-stocked items.
Right, okay. And you're right, they had promised they would wait until after the
Yeah.
start of the thing, and apparently they don't.
I just was afraid we
Double the.
didn't communicate and we buying some extras for the old design or something.
Ooh, are they getting new designs and everything? We can have things in our hats.
Those are,
So it was a matter of pay the bill or ship that back, and we thought it's easier to get it paid.
sorry, Sheila.
Good.
Wasn't a happy day.
I don't know how that is, getting all that crap in at the end of the year.
Any other questions?
No, I have one comment at a year-end statement. I think it's worth noting that our natural gas expenditures for the non-high school, 3 schools, we were at 50% of budget. It was a warm winter, but the high school was only 32% of budget with our new furnace and windows. So it's $44,000 that we budgeted and didn't spend just on natural gas.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
Good reason to think about new buildings in the future.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the claims?
Thank you. Tim? And Rachel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I've got a
And on that note, we will have auditors arriving on Wednesday to audit the books, so.
one question for you, Sheila. Do you want to just give us a brief update on the free lunch?
The free lunch is roughly, 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from finishing, it does conclude at the end of July. And we've had success, not quite as much success as last summer, but we've had success and consistent people coming in, both adults and children, so it's been a good program.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any future agenda items? Dr. Froke has listed setting substitute pay and potential revised job descriptions.
Last year, we had to be creative with a couple hires with them to teach this past year.
Yep.
Next meeting, do you want to just give us an update on the
Sure.
status of completion of all their requirements?
Sure, very good.
Anybody else have anything? Well, we appreciate everyone taking time to support the Vermillion School District. Our next school board meeting will be held on Monday, August 8th, here in the Neuharth Media Center. We are in need of an executive session this evening for personnel and other matters. Can I have a motion to go into executive session, please?
Motion for executive session.
Rachel
Second.
and Tim. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are now in executive session.